Good evening, Holliston. Welcome to the Select Board's meeting for Tuesday, August 25th. This evening's meeting will be exclusively to discuss the Lowland Industrial Park traffic concerns. This is a public forum. This evening, so far, we have 72 participants and growing, which is phenomenal. We're very grateful for all of you joining us tonight and taking the opportunity to hear from all the stakeholders involved. Before we get going, there are a few things I just wanted to get out of the way, if I could. The town will be asking those who want to speak tonight through the forum to use the raise hand feature on your computer. If you're using a tablet or a smartphone, you want to speak, touch the screen, and depending upon your device, either in the bottom or top right of the screen, there are 3 dots next to participants. Press the 3 dots and then press raise hand. If you're using a laptop or desktop and want to speak, click on participants at the bottom of the screen. This will open a participants window to the right. In the bottom right-hand corner of the participants window, click on raise hand. If you're dialing in by phone, you can press *9 to indicate you wish to speak. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be asked to unmute. For those on a computer, tablet, or phone, you'll receive a message to unmute. Finally, if you're calling in by phone, when you are announced by the Select Board, you will need to press *6 to unmute the phone. If you're unable to find the raise hand feature, you can send a chat to the Town of Holliston requesting to speak, and our Technology Director, Chris Mayo, will help you out. This evening, we expect some content discussion from all stakeholders. We would ask for a polite civil discussion. It's clearly going to be a challenge to make sure everybody's content gets heard, so please be patient. Use this feature. The Zoom calls never work when people are talking over each other, so it has to be respectful of your fellow citizens this evening. As we begin, I wanted to do a couple of introductory comments. First and foremost, be respectful this evening. We are here to hear out your concerns, record our next steps and action steps, and to report back at a future date on the plan or plans that we can undertake to improve our overall condition of traffic up in the Lowland Industrial Park area. One of the things I wanted to bring into discussion right out of the gate is some introductions. We have a couple of folks of noteworthy participation, including our state representative, Carolyn Dykema, and also a gentleman from MassDOT, Mr. Frawley. These 2 folks are also in listening mode. They're here to help us as a community understand what the concerns are and what direction we can take going forward. So for the most part, I think at this point we will ask Carolyn if she's got any opening remarks you want to make or any hellos to the community. First of all, please accept my thanks for joining us, Carolyn. If you would like to say hello, please go right ahead.
Thanks, John. Hello to everyone. I want to thank our new town administrator, Ahern, and the Select Board for organizing this meeting and for inviting me to participate. I know that truck traffic, just in my time in town, traffic in general, but truck traffic in particular, has really increased all over town. And I know this neighborhood around the Lowland area has had concerns for some time, actually dating back to my time on the planning board. So this is a topic that's fairly, something that I'm fairly familiar with. I'm really today in my role here as state representative in listening mode, as John said, with the hope of really understanding very clearly the citizens' concerns, and I know they'll be articulated very clearly here tonight, and really facilitating to the best that I can, bringing whatever resources to the table at the state level that may be helpful in either crafting or advancing these action items that John had mentioned earlier. So I also want to welcome and recognize Joe Frawley, who is the District 3 Traffic Operations Manager from MassDOT. And District 3 is the area that covers Holliston and the surrounding areas, so MassDOT would be very involved in any roadway projects that impact state roads, as well as just being incredibly experienced in traffic management generally. And I've always found them to be very helpful in bringing information and expertise to the table as local communities make these decisions. So on that note, I will turn it back over to you, John. And again, just thanks for the chance to participate.
Thanks so much, Carolyn. One of the questions I think we should ask right out of the gate is, why are we having this meeting? Over the last couple of years, this board has received a fair amount of feedback from folks in the Lowland Industrial Park area, residential, commercial owners as well. The concerns are, for the most part, consistent with complaints about truck traffic and the effects it has on their quality of life. Over the last couple of years, this board has tried to work with existing boards in town to address this issue, including the planning board. We also, this past spring, elected to ask our chief, Matt Stone, who's on this call tonight, to help us address it from a law enforcement perspective. Before releasing any documentation associated with the chief of police's opinion on the matter, we decided to take a step back and holistically look at the problem from all corners. It was important for us as a board to evaluate the problems related to truck traffic, because the matter is not just one street, it's not one area, it's multifaceted. And frankly, the matter of traffic in general, as Carolyn said, is a very prominent problem across many communities like Holliston. Vehicular traffic is becoming more and more plentiful, and so it's something that I think we needed a more thoughtful approach to. One of the things we want to achieve tonight is hearing some constructive feedback, not just from the residents, but the business owners as well. Our town administrator, Travis Ahern, will be taking notes and action items for us to actively follow up on with you over the next several months. I wanted to stress that what I would like to achieve out of this is a balanced outcome that benefits the homeowners, the residents, as well as our business owners. At the end of the day, we all own Holliston together. We all have some stake in this, but there's clearly some issues that have been going on for quite some time. I wanted to call your attention to a memo that was drafted by Karen Sherman. I thought it was quite well done. We posted that and some other content material on the town's website, so you folks could have a look at it. At this point, I would like to ask my colleague Tina Hine to introduce some comments that she has on behalf of Dr. Kuska, a school superintendent who could not join our call this evening. And I think Tina's also going to talk about a traffic advisory council. Tina?
Sure. So first of all, I'd like to thank the residents and anyone who's contacted me to share your concerns. I read every email, I answer every phone call, and return every message I receive on my Facebook page. So again, keep the comments coming. I appreciate them. They're very helpful. They're a part of why we're here tonight, that led us here tonight. So again, I appreciate the residents and all those who share their comments and their thoughts and concerns with me. I want to point residents and businesses as well to a resource that's available on the town website. Back in the fall, the Select Board formed the Traffic Advisory Committee. Obviously, operation of that committee, the function of that committee was disrupted somewhat with the pandemic. We are an infant committee getting off the ground, but it's very much up and running. And would like to point residents to the town website. So we have displayed on the screen the location on the website where you can submit a petition. A petition is a way for anyone in the community to share their concerns related to traffic, to safety, to roads, to sidewalks. And again, it's on the website with the instructions here under the Traffic Advisory Committee. I would like to point out the role of the Traffic Advisory Committee. I think it's significant to understand what they will be doing and also what they will not be doing. Their primary role is to hear resident petitions. They will support the Select Board in decisions about traffic regulation and management through studies, collecting data, reviewing existing traffic regulations and infrastructure, and make recommendations on a variety of different measures, including traffic calming and infrastructure changes to the Select Board. In the end, it's the Select Board, the three individuals you see here tonight, who will make changes based on those recommendations. So just to summarize that one more time, please submit petitions you have related to traffic concerns, to roadway, sidewalk infrastructure, to signage, to safety, to the Traffic Advisory Committee. You will receive a response, and most likely a quick one that will include a hearing to have your petition heard by the Traffic Advisory Committee. The last thing I'd like to share are the comments specific to Dr. Jackson, who was the superintendent up until, was it June 1st?
July 1st.
July 1st, right. He was a big supporter of Safe Routes to School, and I'm pulling the schools into this conversation and sharing Dr. Jackson's long-standing support of Safe Routes to School and Dr. Kutzka's growing support and understanding of Safe Routes to School. She's been with us since July 1st. The support for active transportation for our students. That's related here to this conversation because of the school campuses that are on Woodland Street. Woodland Street being, at this point in time, a route that is used for truck traffic in and out of the industrial park. There are safety concerns. We collaborate with, we have a partnership with Safe Routes to School, and it's through that collaboration, that partnership, that we've identified truck traffic as a concern along Woodland Street for those students who choose to bike and walk to school. And so again, for that reason, I'm adding the Safe Routes to School component to this discussion. And after a conversation with Dr. Kutzka, sharing her support in promoting active transportation with improved safety for students who bike and walk along Woodland Street. And that's all I had to say, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. I'm going to ask now, before I get to my brief next remark, for people to start queuing for questions or comments by utilizing the raise hand feature that I just discussed. Again, if you have any difficulty identifying how to do that on your device, just hit chat and our technology director will help you out. So for the next several minutes, I expect to see some people trying to enter the conversation. I'll call on you as I see the hands raised. I would ask that as you attempt to speak, you first identify yourself by name, your address. If you happen to be a business, please do so and let us know what business is associated with as well for our public records. So at this time, let me try to get to the top of the list here, Chris. And I have lost the list, Chris. Stand by, folks. It has gone. Sorry, Chris, I've lost the view of where the hands are. Okay, thank you. Shall I identify to you who I'd like to call on first, Chris?
Sure.
Let's go with CMKHO. This is like operating a radio station. CMHKO, please.
Hello, thank you for your time today. I have been in touch with Tina. I was on previous calls. My name is Carol Corey. I live on 40 Bullard Street. I did actually get in touch with the Traffic Advisory Committee, and I received my letter from the Traffic Advisory Committee telling me that due to funding and other delays, that will not be heard until February of 2021. So they do not have the means, the equipment, or any way of being able to measure the volume and speed of traffic that currently comes down Bullard Street. I was out taking pictures of trucks to show the committee as to how many trucks we have coming down. I actually had truck drivers stop and question me and pull up beside me as I followed them into the Lowland industrial site, into the ABC site there on Lowland Street. At this time, I have, due to that, I actually started up my nest outside my front door so that I monitor, because the town can't have the funds to monitor. So I'm trying to help the town to monitor the volume of trucks that are currently going up and down the street, and I have taken pictures. I have a graph here that shows the amount of trucks. Okay, this being back on July 13th, July 16th, August 10th, August 12th, and August 17th. On August 17th, there were approximately 100 truck sightings going back and forth over past my front door. The trucks we are talking about are big industrial trucks that weigh 24 1,000 pounds. Okay? They are also, and those are the ones going through, we're also getting trucks from Republic. We're getting trucks from Dover waste that travel actually through the Lowland over to get to the transfer station that is on Route 16. So when we're talking congestion of the Lowland site with trucks and traffic, it's also being added to by these other vehicles that are using it as a pass-through. We also have huge 18-wheelers coming down our street. I don't even know how much they weigh. Okay, the culvert that exists under the roadway right next door to my house, because I'm right on the wetlands, has collapsed due to the weight of these trucks. Water, when we do eventually get more rain or snow, will not be able to pass through the culvert to the other side and dump out into the wetlands. It is going to build up and it will approach into my backyard unless we get this cleared. I've addressed it to the Conservation Committee. They say it's a DPW issue. DPW hasn't come out to look at it. I don't know if they even care about it. I don't even think we have the funds to fix it. These are the issues we're all facing, is that we don't have funding. None of this is really being handled properly. When I reviewed the permits, I had Karen, and thank you, Karen, if you're on the call. The permits for the American Waste, I had permits for Thai Wood, I had permits for the Black & Decker. According to the permits, American Waste is supposed to be using Jeffrey Ave according to the permit. However, due to the fact that, according to the police, these are public roadways and they can't stop them or make them use those. And the fact that the town has not put up any type of sign that says, coming out of that waste area, no right-hand turn, left only, they are proceeding up Lowland, over to Fisk, up Bullard, out to Route 115, out to 109, or wherever else they're going. Black & Decker's permit clearly stated that they were supposed to take Jeffrey Ave and that it was up to the town to, they would address it to their truckers, but it was up to the town to post some type of notification or signs to show them the truck route, which has not been done. I've driven by there, there's nothing. There have been no signs posted for these trucks to understand that they should not be entering or going up Lowland Street over to Fisk Street and either turning right or turning left onto Fisk over to Central, up to 115, up to 109, to wherever. I have followed these trucks. I have gotten in my car and I've followed to see where they're going. I know most of them go to the recycling or they go out to the transfer station. I know we've had issues with the transfer station in the past regarding radioactive materials and how much trash they're taking in. I don't know if we're still on top of that. I don't know anything as to the waterways and whether or not we really do have safe water, because we all know there have been studies, especially with Boston College or Boston University, to show that there have been issues with pregnant women drinking Holliston water. Anyhow, so we can go on and we can look at this and I can go through town and I can cite where, due to the stoplights, the town has put in no traffic or no through traffic or, no traffic between certain hours. It's been posted on Pleasant Street. It's been posted on Spring Street. It's been posted on School Street. High Street has a weight limit. Franklin Street, you're not even supposed to drive on. It's like their own private roadway. I think as far as what we would like to see, I can't speak for everyone on this road, but I would honestly say that I don't see why we can't have a 2.5-ton weight limit. The road starts and ends within the town lines. This isn't something where you have a road that crosses multiple towns. It starts and ends within Holliston. There's no restrictions that we couldn't be able to do that. We should be able to do that. When we talk about speed on this road, it's like a freaking speedway. It's a straight road. There is one speed limit sign that is across the street from the Sportsman Club going from Central toward Fisk. That states that it's 30 miles an hour. Okay? There is no speed limit sign if you're coming off of Fisk down to Central. You won't see a speed limit sign. There is a thickly settled sign, okay? And so, yes, we're being classified as thickly settled and that we are a scenic roadway, but that's not stopping anyone from allowing up to 100 trucks coming up and down the street. That is my primary concern. It's already interfered with the wildlife. I have outdoor cats that I fear for every day. I work from home now and I hear it every day. I cannot even go outside to water plants because the discharge, the fumes from these trucks interfere with my breathing due to my pulmonary hypertension. It's no longer safe for me to live in Holliston. Okay? I am at the verge of wanting to sell my house after I just did a major reconstruction of this house to make it my lifelong house. I am pleading with you people to do something, to make it safe. There's no reason a residential street is becoming a highway for trucks. And I'm not talking small trucks. You saw the pictures. They're large trucks. And I tape them every day on my Nest, and I see them go by. I have the data. I can prove the data. And yet, when I do what you want me to do, which is go through the town, get to the advisory committee, well, you know what? I'm going to have to wait till February on that one. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you. Your comments are well received. The depth of your complaint is meaningful to us, and thank you for that. I'd like to recognize the next caller. Let's go with Shahar Zivi. Now, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Chris, if you could.
Yep, that's perfect, Shahar. It's Evie, but it's fine. Everybody could go with Zivi. It's 15 Bullard. We are the first house in Bullard next to Fisk. And so a few items. I want to second the school requirement. In the spring or late spring and in the fall, we do bike to school. Again, this year is a little different, but we do bike to school. We are far or close enough or far enough not to get busing, where we do try to do different activities on our way to school, and Lowland is already and not a safe place to bike through. And we bike only all the way to the rail trail anyway, and we try to go from the rail trail to school, so we're avoiding other streets, but this is our route. So I want to second the need to look at how kids making it to school. The second thing is during the winter, and we're going to see a much worse during the winter. We walk every day with the kids and the dog, especially now during the COVID-19. We walk from the Bullard in the corner with Fisk all the way for Bullard with the corner with Central, the whole length of the street. When trucks come, they are not really that much giving you space. They know they're big and they cannot move too much. And they're not really giving you too much space, that we are the one that have to jump off and go into the dirt. During the winter, with snow on both sides of the road's going to be exactly as the width of one truck. If two trucks coming from the two different directions, we're going to start having issues. And you can see on our street every once in a while, in the front of people's front yards, the two heavy tires making those big, heavy dimples in the front lawns of people when they had to go off the road. So the winter will be really worrying. For me, it's worrying how traffic is going to happen on our street. And the last thing, being the house that being the closest on Bullard to to Fisk, there's a lot of trucks as they coming, if it's from the Sherborne direction or from the Holliston direction as they're turning into Bullard, and they're honking their horn, and this is a big truck's horns, and we hear it inside the house. Many times there are multiple trucks. They're trying to let people, cars, let cars know that they can give them the right of way so they can make the turn, the big, huge turn that they need to make. And these horns that they honking over our streets is also annoying, and it's more than once a day and that we hear them. And we live here we moved here out of the big city and came for the quiet. And so those are the three major items that I had to add to the list. Thank you.
Shahar, thank you very much for your comments. We're going to move on to Gene Klein. Chris, if you would activate Gene.
Hi, thank you very much. Again, I'm Jean Klein. I live at 85 Regal Street. I've lived here for 20 years. This problem has gotten progressively worse, especially over the last 5 years. I have 2 children that attend the school campuses down the street. And quite honestly, it is absolutely terrifying to see them attempting to cross or get on the rail trail with 80,000-pound trucks coming in and out of Lowland Street on a daily basis. It makes the turn radius for me turning onto Lowland almost impossible, and then they attempt to turn onto Lowland from Woodland and they can't make the turn, so they collapse the curb. I have to back up. And I guess with the increase of students, anyone who's involved in the schools and sees as school releases and the flood of children, right, that come out down Woodland Street, how we can accept these trucks continuing to drive in and out amongst our children. It's just unacceptable, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. I'm extremely frustrated. I would like some action. This is extremely dangerous, and it's an accident waiting to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Our next caller I'll recognize will be, excuse me, Michelle Mehigan, I believe. Michelle?
Yes, you said that accurately. I'm at 76 Regal Street. I've been here since 2006, and I too have 2 kids that go to school on the Woodland Street campus. Have had several close calls, as Jean mentioned, with trucks turning and nearly colliding because the intersection there is not wide enough at Lowland and the end of Regal and Woodland. It's frightening for me in a car. I drive an SUV, but when I'm with my children on their bikes, it's harrowing. It is frightening. We were so excited when the rail trail came, but it seems like there's an increase in truck traffic that makes it perilous to get to the rail trail from our neighborhood. When I moved here, I was aware that there was a truck route, which suggested trucks go the Route 16 way, and that gave me some sense of calm, but I have since learned a truck route doesn't mean anything. What we really need is a truck exclusion that is enforceable to keep our neighborhoods and all of our students safe, walking to school, driving on our roads. I recognize that probably feels like a last-ditch effort, but we're kind of there because we've asked in permits and letters and everything that the trucks respect the existing way into and out of the industrial park, and we're not getting that compliance. So maybe it's time we pull the trigger and get a truck exclusion instead of what we have today. Thank you.
Michelle, thanks so much for your comments. We appreciate that. We'll move on to the next speaker. I'll recognize Michael Barry. Michael?
Hi, I hope you can hear me. Michael Barry, 54 Eagle Street. I'm joining my neighbors in calling in concern. We've been here for 32 years, and we've been dealing with this traffic issue over the past 32 years since I've lived here. We discussed it younger when my kids were younger. Luckily, both of my kids are no longer around here. They don't have to worry about this. But I still do. We still, talking to Michelle, listening to Michelle leave her comment about coming out of the driveway, out of the road. You come to that intersection of Lowland Street and Regal Street, and your hands grip the steering wheel a little tighter, and you say, am I going to get there today? You take a right, and what do you see? This great big steel grill of a truck. Or they're coming down from the industrial park, coming out onto Woodland Street, and the trees that are right there, you may not see them right away, but what do you see? A great big steel grill of a truck. And you think to yourself, that's kind of scary that I'm an adult and I see that and I can stop. But then I think of the kids on the rail trail with their parents riding their bikes, taking their walk down there. Now, they're not going to stop to push the button to cross that street to get the lights. They're not going to look right and left. They might be 100 feet from mom and dad. That great big steel grill, maybe have a little problem with that child. And this is something that I have fear is going to happen. And if we do not do something that alleviates this issue, we might be reading about this someday. And it's kind of scary to think about that. I myself, like I said, I've lived here for 32 years. We've been talking about this for 32 years. This industrial park has gotten nothing but busier and busier and busier. And it's time we actually do something, that we actually take this and say, okay, how about we do this? How about we change it so that they can't go that way? If you stop them from going across the rail trail crossing, they won't go near our school. They won't be where the kids are, and they won't be interfering with the lives of people who, when we buy a house thinking to ourselves, this is my little bit of heaven. I want to go home and enjoy myself. I want to go home and sit in my yard and enjoy some peace and quiet. But unfortunately, for most of our neighbors down this end of Regal and Lowland, they can't enjoy their homes because from 6 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, there are these great big loud trucks coming back and forth. We're pulling out of our driveway, we're pulling out of Regal Street, and there's a big steel grill swinging on my side of the road because the road's so narrow, those trucks can't come in peacefully. They're interacting with cars. As you stop, you have to back up. If you're lucky enough, you see them. If they're lucky enough, they see you. And something's going to happen at some point, and it's just a scary thought of what's going to happen. So I actually did fill a petition out, and I sent it to the Traffic Advisory Board, and I've been told in about 6 months we'll have a hearing for this. I'm hoping we get through this and we can get to that hearing without any issues, but it's when you think about what's happening down here and the amount of trucks that we're talking about and the size of these trucks and the noise that they make, it's not a pleasant experience to be leaving your home or even sitting in your home because of these trucks. And I think it's just something this town needs to do something about it. So thank you very much for listening.
Michael, John Cronin, I have a quick follow-up question if I could. You did talk a little bit about your witnessing of the truck traffic in your area. Can you define the days of the week where the problem exists? Is it 7 days, 5 days? Is it nighttime, daytime? Can you give me some more specifics on your observation of when the trucks are impeding your quiet enjoyment?
It's typically Monday through Saturday, early in the morning, because I get up and I walk in the morning, and it's typically early in the morning. I've been down the end of Lowland at Regal Street, and there's a 6-foot stockade fence down there. If you look at the curbing, it's all marked up from where the trucks have seen it. So it's Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday. These trucks start early in the morning and they finish late in the evening. They are not quiet. They used a Jake brake when they're coming down to Woodland Street off of Lowland. So you've got that nice loud noise coming as you're sitting there in your yard, or you're sitting, it scares the bejesus out of you when you walk in. So yes, it's almost a constant thing from 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night when you get these trucks coming. On occasion, they've been known to come around the corner and honk their horn so everyone knows they're coming, which again, that's a wonderful thing to hear. At 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning is a big dump truck or a big 18-wheeler coming down that street and you hear that noise. So it's almost a constant thing now where, yes, it's great at 7 o'clock at night when you're home, the trucks are not coming by anymore, but that's 7 o'clock at night. What about 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon when you want to sit outside and have a nice cup of coffee, sit and enjoy a peaceful book read, and you've got this big, huge dump truck Jake braking down your street? That's not a pleasant experience. It's not what a resident in town who's trying to enjoy their beautiful home or their beautiful yard should have to listen to. Not when there are alternatives, and there are alternatives here.
Michael, thanks so much for your response. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
We'll
Thanks for
move on.
listening.
We'll move on to our next raised hand. I'll acknowledge the caller known as A.
Hi, Island Weaver, 69 Woodland Street. The trucks coming down Woodland Street from Washington Street are a huge problem. They've been a huge problem since my mother's was growing up, because my grandfather actually built this house and my mother moved in here when she was 2. So it's been ongoing since then. She was telling me the other day when I let her know about this meeting that she remembers growing up and seeing the big trucks coming down Woodland Street, and they would slow down and look at Norland Street because we're directly across from Norland. And my grandparents would holler to them, next down the road, next left, so that they wouldn't turn into Norland because it's a very curvy road. So I'm not really sure how, because I myself have even currently witnessed the trucks, they'll coming from the railroad street side of Woodland, they'll miss Lowland Street and then they're going on their brakes and they turn on to Norland. And then they'll realize that they can't go, and I've seen them back onto Woodland, and I don't know how they're doing that without causing an accident. That was a miracle, I suppose. And I've also seen them coming down Woodland, and when they see Norland, when they're getting close to Norland, they're slamming on their brakes thinking that it's Lowland, and my windows they're literally rattling. And because the house was built in 1960, so the windows are very old. But and I've also on the rail trail that crosses Lowland, it makes me very nervous. I was coming down that street from the Fisk side, and I was about 5 or 6 feet from crossing it. And all of a sudden, 3 kids darted out on their bicycle. Now, I'm only in a little Subaru Forester, so I can slam on my brakes and not hit any children. A big truck can't do that. And that scared me. I think part of the issue is parents should... I was always taught growing up that when you cross the street, you get off your bicycle and you walk it across. So I don't know if that's not the law or the rules anymore, but maybe there could be some kind of apparatus that's put across the trails so that people can't just shoot out on their bikes, because they're not utilizing the stoplight or the hit the button to walk. And I mean, that's a whole nother separate issue, but it just makes me nervous. Also, we're coming from Washington Street onto Woodland, where I am, there's a curve right before it, and I get nervous when I'm leaving my driveway because sometimes you can't see them if it's in the winter, depending on how high the snow is piled. And I was also curious now my mother had told me that when she was growing up there and the Whitney Street entrance was done, or they were working on it, there was a sign on the corner of Washington and Woodland directing trucks that they could not use Woodland Street and they had to use the Whitney Street entrance. She said, and then at some point it was gone. So I guess my question is, why? Do we know why? Can we find out why it was gone? And can we get that back? Because that would be, I think it would be helpful to deter trucks from coming down this way.
Ashlyn, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
This is Tina. Given your vantage on Woodland, I'm wondering if you could speak to accidents, if you've witnessed any involving truck traffic.
Well, actually, I can tell you, I just looked it up too. It was April 14th of this year. I looked out my son's bedroom window and one of the 18-wheelers was stuck and coming from Lowland onto Woodland, trying to take a right onto Woodland. And I'm watching and he's not backing up, not doing anything, and traffic is backing up. So I ended up calling HPD and letting them know and saying, I don't know if we want to send someone down because traffic is backing up. It was, I believe it was Chief Cassidy had commented on that the truck caught a low hanging wire, and the police got permission to cut the wire so that the truck could continue going through. That's the only one I can recall that happened like recently.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ashlyn, do you have any other further comments to share with us tonight?
No, I think that's it. I would like to, I did have another question, which was, I was told that, these trucks weren't allowed on Woodland Street. They're not allowed to use, I believe, High Street and things like that. But I was also told that it's not an enforceable law, like they can't give a ticket for it. So I'm just wondering if something is done, a policy or guidance or whatever is put in place that they can't use these roads, that they have to make sure that they're using Whitney, how is it going to be enforced? And I know we're trying to be business friendly, but I do think something should be done for the businesses, that they need to make sure that the drivers who are coming and going from their business know that they need to use the Whitney Street. And I think that there should maybe somehow look into some kind of repercussions for that if they're not doing that. But again, how would you enforce that?
It's a great question, Ashlyn. I will ask our chief of police who's on the call this evening to try to address that question. Before I let him speak, if I could just let you know, we are all sitting here tonight, many of us, experiencing a complex traffic issue that has quite a history with it. Again, I encourage folks to familiarize themselves with the fine memo Karen Sherman did that kind of gives us a context of how we got here. There are a number of different things regarding enforcement that may already be in place, or that may, through signage or previous acts of this board, what have you, may have had some impact on what trucks can and can't do around the Lowland Industrial Park area. However, in order to understand it holistically, I think we wanted to have this opportunity to view it as a full-blown project. What can we do in addition to what's been done to date to bring together a balanced traffic solution? Enforcement is obviously a very key component of that. Holliston Police has recently engaged in a joint effort with the Mass State Police to do a commercial vehicle interdiction. Between that and hopefully some other information, I'll allow Chief Stone at this point to answer your question. Okay, hang on 1 second. Mm-hmm. Chief, good.
Thank you, Mr. Cronin. As you mentioned, we recently joined with the Mass State Police Commercial Motor Vehicle Enforcement Unit to do some commercial vehicle enforcement in the area around Lowland Street and Washington Street. The weight vehicle violations require specialized training for our officers. So we have to go to specialized training and have our officers certified to use particular weights and so forth. When it comes to signage and obeying signs, or left-hand turn signs or right-hand turn signs, one-way signs, those are certainly enforceable by our officers, and we can write violations for that. Obviously, when we get calls of past incidents, it's difficult, if not impossible, to write a citation after the time. So we try to deploy our officers where appropriate, when available, based on complaints, based on calls from residents, and we try to do that. There's over 100 miles of roadway in Holliston, so we try to spread our resources as best we can. But as I said, in terms of seen or observed violations or signage violations, speed and so forth, if our officers are witnessing these violations, we're certainly out there and enforcing and citing when appropriate.
Ashlyn, I hope that gives you some measure of a response. Do you have any follow-up to that, or are you good?
No, I'm okay. Thank you very much.
We'll move on to the next speaker. And for the most part, I want to thank those that have spoken so far, very respectful, concise. We've got quite a few people that want to be heard tonight, so that will help expedite their interest as well. We'll move on to Sarah Baroud. If you'd like to be heard, Sarah, please give us your address.
Hi there, Sarah Baroud. I'm at 21 Lowland Street. So thank you very much for having this meeting. Really appreciate it. We have been in the neighborhood for about 1.5 years, so we're new to it, but we are geographically right in the middle of things, and we appreciate everyone's work. That sounds like this has been going on for quite a while, so we appreciate that. We have 2 really young kids, under 3 years old, so we certainly moved here for the location, the rail trail, and the proximity to the school campus. Looking forward to using that in the future years. So location is really important to us, but unfortunately right now that's kind of backfiring with the truck traffic. I did track the truck data for about 1.5 days over the past couple weeks. And one day I tracked from about 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And in that window of time, there was 41 truck sightings past our house. And I submitted this to the select board and to the town administrator, and wrote down the time and whatever marking was on the truck that I could see, and if they were going to or from the industrial park, just to try to give as much data as possible. And then another day, I was only able to do it for about a half a day, given my schedule. That was from about 7:15 in the morning till about 12:30 in the afternoon. I don't remember the number, but it pretty much matched up with the previous day that I tracked. So, our biggest concerns, as most people are saying, is safety for sure. We're pretty much at the junction of Regal Street and Lowland Street, and also where Lowland Street crosses the rail trail. So we kind of see a lot of this action. Very concerning, as people have said, for safety. These trucks would not be able to stop quickly at all. We do see them a handful of times trying to stop, and it just, thankfully everything's been okay so far, but it takes a toll on the truck, I'm sure, to be able to do that. It's just not what they're made for. The noise is really loud. We've noticed, a little bit of an improvement from some of the drivers, it seems like, over the past week or so, which we really appreciate. But the Jake brake and the noise that they cause coming all the way down Woodland, my son has hit the deck a couple of times because it just comes out of nowhere, and it's really alarming. So that's a big concern. And, we really just want to enjoy our property, enjoy our neighborhood, and the noise, the pollution, and the safety are our biggest concerns. So we appreciate the businesses in town, and we just want to coexist with them peacefully and have the permits that they have in place enforced, to not use our residential roadways. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Sarah. We appreciate it. Yes, I'll confirm also we received your email, so we have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I call on Tom Gilbert. Hello, Tom. It's been a while. If you'd like to identify your address, we'd appreciate it. Might be dealing, Tom, with a mute button issue.
Is that better?
There you go. Now you're
okay. Thank you. Again, it's Tom Gilbert, 105 Bullard Street. We've already had 2 residents who spoke very eloquently about the issues concerning Bullard Street, so I won't try to repeat the issues that they raised. I did last week send to Travis Ahern a list of the talking points that involve many of the issues and the concerns that we have on Bullard Street, and some of the remediation points that we would like to raise. But just maybe add a couple of additional things that maybe haven't been talked to so far. One, Bullard Street is very narrow. It's only 8 feet wide on each of the travel lanes. So as a result, many of these heavy trucks, the 18-wheelers, the 10-wheelers, et cetera, that use this road usually straddle the yellow line in the middle of the road. So they're essentially using both lanes of the road. Obviously, as your oncoming vehicle to them, you hope that they're going to move over, which so far they have. But again, it is an issue to be concerned about. There are also a lot of animals that cross Bullard Street. Deer are certainly a common animal around here. We have a lot of turkeys. We have also turtles that cross, certainly in the swamp areas. So, that's a concern. It's been talked earlier that the bulk of the traffic is either traffic going to the Cavanta transfer station on Washington Street or going to the American Recycled Materials on Lowland Street. So they probably account for, 75% of the heavy traffic or more. The other thing, too, is many of these trucks are diesel trucks. So it's already mentioned that there's a tremendous amount of noise associated with them. The noise is particularly acute as these trucks are trying to accelerate up the road. As you can well imagine, they're carrying heavy loads. And many of these trucks probably are, to the extent of the limit at which they're supposed to be carrying on these roads. So it becomes quite noisy when they do that. I did look at the manual on uniform traffic control devices dated January 2012. And there is a passage in there talking about heavy commercial vehicle exclusion, which basically says when the truck traffic generally exceeds 5 to 8%, and a heavy truck is defined basically as a carrying capacity of 2.5 tons or more, that you can talk about a truck exclusion regulation. I would say that the volume of traffic, especially during the day hours, and we'll say that's between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., although traffic does occur, truck traffic does occur before that and after that, but probably the largest volume of traffic is during those hours, Monday through Friday. There is some Saturday traffic, but certainly the bulk, I think, is probably Monday through Friday. That the amount of truck traffic compared to the total traffic on the road is well above the 8% limit. So it seems like, according to that manual, Bullard Street will qualify for a truck exclusion over 2.5 tons. The other thing, too, is I don't know, certainly a lot of these truck drivers use the same route over and over again, so they're familiar with it. But some of the trucks are probably new, and I suspect they're getting their routes by means of Waze or some of these other traffic directional systems that they have. Is it possible that somebody certainly could talk to Waze and some of the other ones, Google, et cetera, and see if there's a way to delete Bullard Street from the traffic when it deals with heavy truck traffic? I'm not that familiar with it, other than the fact that I use it, but I'm not sure about whether there's a commercial vehicle version of it or not. So, but that's a possibility. So that's really what I have to say. I did send a list of all the talking points, and I think it just includes many of the issues that have already been mentioned, and you could certainly refer to that. And if you want to talk to me about any of these issues, I certainly am available to talk to you. So
Tom, confirming we did receive your correspondence. It was very well done, very complete, and very informative. So thanks for sending that along. And your contribution tonight is noted. We appreciate it. Anything else to share, Tom?
No, that's it.
Are you good? Okay.
Yes.
We're going to move on next to somebody called DPU 180.
Hi, it's Pam Zico, 180 Fisk Street.
Hi, Pam.
Hi. So again, with my neighbors on Regal and Norland and Woodland and Lowland and Bullard, I also have the trucks going by with the jake braking, and that is rather loud. I find that it's just a few kind of trucks that come by, the extra large dump or some of the small dump. I did talk with some regular, 18-wheeler truck drivers, that deliver goods and that come into the industrial park, because I also work at a company on Lowland Street. And a lot of these trucks that are coming in, like Tom was alluding to, don't pay for the trucking GPS program that they would use that would deter them down Washington Street and to come into Everett. So they're just using regular GPSs because that's free, and they have to pay for the other thing. I talked with a trucker yesterday. He uses 5. I know that we did, road work on Woodland and Lowland Street to try to deter trucks from turning in and coming out of that way. And, and now with the additional danger of the rail trail, it'd be nice if these trucks would maybe have some signage and some clear, rules as, when they come into the industrial park. Yeah, there's a little sign at the end of Woodland Street onto Washington Street that says a truck route. But, they're going by their GPS models and they're going to find the shortest way. I don't have Covestra going by me. I just have the dump trucks and the trucks going into Lowland Industrial Park. I had a couple of questions. I remember from a long time ago that if trucks had bill of lading to deliver on Lowland Street, they could come in any way they wanted. So I wondered if that was something that was still in effect. And secondly, that I'm concerned about the, bridge on Lowland Street. We do have a restriction on Lowland Street, but it's 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. We don't really notice a lot of trucks turning off of Fisk Street going down Lowland Street at that time. There's an occasional truck driver that might come down. But I'm concerned about the culvert over on Fisk Street too, from Lowland Street, So those are my concerns and my thoughts.
Pam, I have a question and an answer, I believe. So my question for you is, can you just give the name again of the commuting app that you referred to? I didn't catch it. You named one specifically.
Okay, remember in the old days, we all bought a, TomTom or a GPS system. We all paid for something and now we just do it on our phone, Google, Maps or whatever. Well, there are specific truck, apps or GPS devices that are for trucking to show them the low bridge on Exchange Street. For instance, right? I mean, that box truck that went through there last year, was probably just using a regular GPS. But if these truckers would use their trucking GPS, it would avoid them down Woodland Street and to come into the, right way.
Got it.
Okay. And then in terms of your question about delivery.
Oh, I'm sorry, but it costs them money to do that.
Okay.
And one guy said last night, you're getting truckers that are coming in from out of the country that are doing 6-month visas and then moving on, and then new truck drivers. So they're not going to spend the $400 or $500 to get the trucking program.
Okay. Your question about delivering on a street, if there's a truck exclusion in place on any given street, it is delivery trucks to addresses on that street are exempt from the truck exclusion.
Okay.
So if you're speaking about the truck trying to make a delivery on, say, Woodland Street, and say there was an exclusion on Woodland Street, that delivery truck to that location on Woodland would be exempt from the truck exclusion.
Right. So all the trucks that are coming through on Lowland Street from Woodland Street, if they have a bill of lading, they're excluded from not being able to take that road. That's what I'm asking.
It might be a question that we'll have to get back to you on, Pam, specifically on the bill of lading. As Chief Stone indicated earlier, there are specialty folks that understand that more than we do. So we'll take your question and try to respond to it in the future. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll move on to our next speaker. I believe that's Karen Langton. If you'd like to join us, Karen, your address, please.
Karen Langton, 100 Woodland Street. Thank you so much for the meeting this evening. The neighborhood had done a public comment with the Board of Selectmen a while ago. I believe it was around April 14th when that issue happened on Lowland Street. So I'd like to just go back to that for a minute with the low-hanging wires. They really weren't low-hanging. The fiber optic lines cannot be above the electrical lines, and the trucks cannot clear all the time the fiber optic lines. So that was an issue there, but that's not really what I wanted to talk about tonight. I just wanted to clarify I've been at my location for 20 years, and we have consistently seen the truck traffic get worse and worse in our neighborhood. And as people have already noted, the speed, the size, the noise, the danger, all of these are happening at each of, if you will, the extremities of the park. I view the park as having a design flaw. I understand there's a history of as why it was that way, but today, that is a modern era. If we had one entrance and one exit from the park, there would be a physical limitation to the way with which truck traffic could move. It's also beneficial for truck traffic to be out on the routed numbers of roads, and those are state highways that are designed to handle trucks. So I think that we're hearing from people on Fisk Street, we're hearing from people on Bullard Street, we're hearing from people on Woodland Street, we're hearing from people on Norland Street, and they're all being accessed from Lowland, where it meets Woodland, and Lowland, where it meets Fisk, and then trucks are moving out further. If you look at all the other industrial parks in our town, they have one entrance and one exit. And I find this fascinating that this is the only industrial zone that has multiple ways in which to access the businesses. And the other part to note is that in the last 20 years, the business park has become more and more successful, and I applaud them for that. I think that's wonderful. However, it should not change or detract from the quality of life of the residents who live around there. One caller said that it's a great location where they live, and I agree. It is a great location where I live. I love where I live. I love my neighborhood. I love Holliston. However, this is leaving a really bad taste in my mouth because I can't enjoy my property. I cringe every time I back out of my driveway that something's going to come at me really fast. I watch people trying to use the rail trail. I myself use it, and I'm really concerned about the fall when we have multiple children crossing roads trying to get to school, and more students than ever are going to be accessing the schools because of COVID, and they're not going to be on buses. So I would like to draw your attention to one part of one industrial park that could have had this problem but didn't. If you think about New Englander Industrial Park off of Route 126, at the top of the cul-de-sac, Mohawk Path could have continued all the way through to the new neighborhood that's there. However, there was a decision made to put a barrier there to protect the neighborhood. If that hadn't happened, I think that we would be seeing the same kinds of things that we're drawing upon right now, which is that back in the 70s and the 80s, businesses had employees that drove their trucks, and their employees were given directions on which way to go. And we've seen the proliferation of that to go to third parties that provide that service. And those third parties providing those services are, as everyone has already stated, using GPS. And they're using the free GPS because, well, why wouldn't you? However, that's not differentiating the weight class that they sit in. So as they drive through these roads, they are either selecting fastest time or least distance. So to get a 1/10 of a mile quicker, they're going to be brought down, from, if they're coming in from Route 16 and they're coming in from Milford, it's going to have them bang a right on Central and then bang a left on Woodland and then bang a right on Lowland. Like, that's just what it's going to do. If it's going to do a speed thing with them and get them there faster, it's probably going to bring them all the way down to the top of Woodland, but then right on Woodland, left on Lowland. So we're dealing with this octopus of a problem. And the way I see it is that we've already worked to go talk to businesses one-to-one, ask for their compliance. that's short-lived. It happens for a week, and then it goes back to the way it has to operate now. You know, the way people are going about doing their business. They're getting involved in what they're doing day to day. They're not necessarily able to control all the trucks. And then the trucks that aren't in their employment, they can't control anyway. So we see these short-lived processes that we've tried to put into place. And then the boards try to put in conditions, but the conditions don't seem to have enough weight in order for the conditions to be carried out in any meaningful way. And then we see that, you know, the police try to talk to them about it, or we try to appeal to, you know, good corporate neighbors and working and living simultaneously with one another, but those fall apart. So I think what we're hearing collectively from everybody on this call is we're looking for a measure or an action that is enforceable with the least amount of resources used for our town. It allows the businesses to thrive and keep going. We don't want to stop them. We want them to do as well as they can. But at the same time, we want to enjoy our property. We want to be safe in our yards. We want to be able to back out of our driveways. We want to be able to walk to the rail trail. We want our children to be able to walk to school. And we want to feel as though we are really part of this community in a residential way and respected and able to live. And the businesses can do that too. It just needs to be done in a way that will be permanent and will be functioning. So I ask you to please, while you're working through your checklist and thinking about what you are going to do, to really consider the fact that it is time for this to be a permanent action. Thank you.
Karen, thanks so much. We appreciate your remarks. In addition to Representative Dyken this evening, who I recognized earlier, I just wanted to let folks know, listening in is Mr. Joe Frawley from the MassDOT. I believe Rep. Dyken notified you that our partner at MassDOT is listening, because we'll be reaching out to him, working with MassDOT on a solution down the road. Also joining us on the call are members of your elected planning board. I don't believe they have a quorum tonight. They're not posted, so they won't be conducting business, but they're listening, and I think that's an important thing to know. We do have a quick comment from Chief Cassidy before I pick up. Did you want to talk, or were you alerting me of
logistics for you? We've had a bunch of people join by phone, so if you just want to announce star 9 for people who are calling in by phone.
If folks are calling in by phone, just to reiterate directions at the early part of this meeting, please enter star 9 if you wish to be heard. Thank you very much. So we'll move on. We have several of the speakers that are lined up here. We want to keep it going. Mr. John Higley, you'll be recognized next. And again, John, if you could give us your address, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman Cronin. I'm John Higley, 14 Saddlebrook Road in Sherburne. I'm a Sherburne resident. I'm also chairman of the planning board in Sherburne. And I just had a quick question. We had a meeting, I think, early July with a representative from Odessa, and listened to the Holliston planning board and got some, what we thought was conflicting information, or at least things we wanted to clarify. So Odessa expressed interest in a property in Sherburne. They already have a parking facility in Sherburne on the northern end of Western Avenue in Sherburne. So we've invited Odessa back. We sent a list of questions. We're looking forward to their reply at this now. We're looking forward to hearing back from them. But so one question I have is, the Odessa facility in Framingham, with a part of it in Sherburne, abuts Western Avenue in Sherburne, which runs north-south, that continues south down towards and crosses Route 16, Washington Street in Sherburne, down to Whitney Street in Holliston to the industrial park. So we have a special permit currently with Odessa that discourages traffic use of Western Avenue in Sherburne. And it seems like the traffic routes that were discussed at your planning board hearing is in conflict with that special permit. And I wonder if they could have a way to reconcile that.
John, appreciate you very much bringing that to our attention. I don't want to put our chairman of the planning board on the spot, but I do see that Dave is on the call. Dave, are you inclined to address that at this time, or do you want to defer and possibly deal with that offline?
I believe we're meeting with that particular, we're meeting with them soon. So we will deal with that. And we're actually looking at that right currently. So that is,
Dave, you're familiar with that special permit
yes.
that Sherburne has?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else, John?
Just we're happy to have the opportunity to be here and happy to again work with Holliston. We've got a lot of catching up to do on the rail trail, and if you have any support to help us get a deal done with CSX to extend your marvelous rail trail that residents of Sherburne take advantage of your good work. So we'd love to continue on and extend it up through Sherburne all the way up to the northern boundary. So that would be, we appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, John. I appreciate the kind words. Joining us on the call tonight, I don't need Robert Wideneck's illustrious resume to precede him, but Bob, if you want to say hello, introduce yourself. Bob was a major architect and mover getting our rail trail off the ground, John. This meeting tonight is for Lowland, so I won't defer too much, but you should introduce yourself to Robert, possibly exchange some contact information offline, but you need somebody like Bob to see it through. It takes guts and a lot of determination, and Bob's got both of them.
Mr. Chairman, I'm very familiar with Robert Wideneck and his whole committee, and been a longtime big fan of his good work.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us tonight, John. We're going to move on to our next speaker, if that's good. We will recognize somebody known as JM9071. If you could announce your name and address.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is John Mehigan, and I live at 230 Fisk Street, which is actually the corner of Fisk and Lowland. There is actually a sign right on the corner of Fisk Street here, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. weight limit, 2.5 tons. Now, I've been here 30 years, and that sign went in about 25 years ago. I have never once seen a truck stopped for violating that. The trucks have been coming in from the Bullard side of Fisk as early as 5:30 in the morning. And when they get down to Maryland towards Lowland, Jake breaks, which is at 5:30 in the morning. It kind of jars you out of a sound sleep, if you will. That's few of them. Most of them are coming by at like 6:30. My wife has actually walked down to talk to the compost people at 6:30 in the morning. The gate has already been opened, and it's not supposed to open till 7 a.m. He was very rude to my wife and used a lot of very foul language. So that's a different thing. Also, with the COVID going on, a lot of walkers and joggers, bikes and families are out around on Fisk Street. They come down Lowland, and it's sort of a blind corner. So if people coming from the Bullard side down Fisk, taking a right on the Lowland, they can't see any of the people right there. There's been a lot of near misses. Thank God no one's got hurt, but there's always some beeping and things like that. Now, I remember something back in 1993 with the Lista Corporation, where I thought all the truck traffic was supposed to go out Jeffrey to Route 16. Because what I'm finding now, the trucks are coming out Lowland, they're taking a right onto Fisk by Pam's house, they go up Central, and then they're taking a left on the 16. So if they were going out Jeffrey, they're on 16 already. That would just put the trucks down, downtown instead, which probably doesn't help much. I don't really have any answers for it. The one thing, the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. weight limit, if you just took that off there and had weight limit 2.5 tons on the Fisk end, a lot of those big trucks couldn't come through. And the John, when we started annoying.
Thank you. I appreciate that. When we started the meeting, I mentioned that there's a fair history behind the industrial parks enforcement that preceded many of the folks at this table, certainly. And I'm guessing that the posted signage you're referring to is another item that was put into place by previous boards with some intention. But again, it was not probably looking at the larger scope of the issue. So that will be brought into our long-term plan of what to do and how that can be incorporated into the plan to improve the traffic flow. Okay. We're going to move on to our next caller, our next speaker is Kevin Brower. Kevin, if you'd announce your address, please.
Hi, thank you. I'm Kevin Brower. I live at 171 Washington Street. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've been a resident for 9.5 years with my family here. We're on the corner of Locust Street in Washington. So as a resident of the neighborhood of Route 16, I appreciate what it's like to have lots of trucks driving by your house. So I feel for all you. So I've heard a lot of discussion about redirecting traffic, but not as much discussion about total volume of traffic and the type of trucks in the town and in our neighborhoods. I recognize that many streets in the smaller neighborhoods aren't adequate for the large trucks, but also the total volume and the types of trucks on 16, at least in our end of town, I do not think is appropriate for the road itself there, particularly at the intersection of Locust Street where there's the hill. And there's been numerous accidents over the course of our residency here at this intersection, as well as the rail trail crossing at Route 16 there, which in addition to the crossing in the Lowland area is not a great crossing of Route 16. So I guess my expectation for any work done to look into all of this is to understand the total volume of truck traffic, not just in the Lowland areas, but on the Washington Street areas as well, and to analyze any impacts that may be that any plans to change traffic flows are understood well, and that even the things as simple as speed limits and speed enforcement on Washington Street itself could help the overall sound, safety, and impact of traffic for all the residents in this part of Holliston. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We have a comment from Tina.
Yes, Kevin, I appreciate your comments, and I want you to know that I also share your feelings on the need to have a broader understanding of traffic impacts with any change we make, and need to be able to understand where we are today with truck traffic along Washington Street. So again, I just want to share that I'm committed to looking at a broad view of truck traffic and overall volume on our major roads in Holliston, Route 16 Washington being one of them. Any change we make anywhere in town is going to affect a street like Washington, and I agree with you that we need to be looking at that, and I believe that there are broader regional issues at play here. I won't get into that tonight, but that's a part of the picture that we'll be looking at, and the solutions we'll be looking for is to understand and address some of those broader regional issues that are bringing truck traffic on our streets. So thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next caller, known as iPad Chris. I think you know who I'm talking about. The next one on the list. Please identify yourself and your address.
Hi, my name's Jenna Schneer. I live at 21 Regal Street. We've had this house in our family for over 30 years. And we share some of the concerns my neighbors already mentioned about the noise and safety. But another thing, kind of just more on the short term, as we talk about walking to school and whatnot, since buses won't be an option, where the crosswalk is between Lowland and crossing Woodland, you really have to go around a 6-foot fence to get there, and it's kind of a blind spot if cars are turning right from Woodland onto Lowland. It's super dangerous. Anytime I cross there, I'm not using the crosswalk and just go on the other side of the road. I don't know if there would be any flexibility to move the sidewalk to kind of the opposite side of Lowland, kind of so you'd be crossing to the right. It's just you'd have to cross Lowland, then go across Woodland, and with that fence there and cars coming around really quick, it's just very unsafe, especially the trucks, and the glare there too, and depending on what time of day, it's very dangerous. And just the volume as we get back to school is going to be a problem.
Yeah, Jenna, this is Tina. I just want to let you know that that particular crosswalk you're referring to was identified on a walk assessment that we did with Safe Routes to School as a crosswalk that needs some improvement. So it's not gone unnoticed, your observations as well. and that we are in the process of developing a plan for prioritizing projects within the Complete Streets program, and this crosswalk will be brought up as a definite need for improvement.
Okay, great. And the other thing I just wanted to say too, as far as the cross for the rail trail, I don't know if it'd be something to look into, but I think on the Milford side of the rail trail, they have sensors. So when you kind of are approaching there, the lights go off rather than needing to push a button. I feel like that kind of at least would alert the lights to go off. Because my backyard looks right out to that intersection, and it's, you just see bikes fly across there without stopping, and with the volume of trucks back there, I think it's just an accident waiting to happen.
Jenna, thanks so much for your comments. I'm just going to pause and make a general statement at this point. I've observed as many as 113 participants on this evening's Zoom call, which is phenomenal. We can't thank you enough for coming in and talking to us. We'll keep going. But I wanted to point out something to sort of tap on to what Tina was talking about. This board over the last couple of years has been trying very hard to work with our town stakeholders to bring forth a study to look at ways to improve our roadways and sidewalks, to improve the safe pedestrian access throughout Holliston. It's widely recognized as an undervalued area of our existence. We thought that the rail trail and the blooming of the rail trail, if you will, was an opportunity to have a look at how Holliston paves its roads, replaces its water pipes, and hopefully starts building a more active and connected sidewalk infrastructure. Folks on this call all are talking about traffic safety, truck traffic, and overall movement within town. We'd ask for your help and support at town meeting this fall when we address that, or try to address that as well. It's a separate but related item, and we think there's some nexus there for you to consider. We're going to move on to the next caller. I have a phone number to read. It's 740-8347. Chris, if you could activate that citizen, and if you could, whoever you are, kindly indicate your name and address, please. You'll have to hit *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Judy DeWitt, and I am at 182 Central Street. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, perfect. I have lived at my house for 45 years now, and I've always known that Central Street has been a very, very busy thoroughfare. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not as bad as Washington Street, but I've noticed truck traffic for all the years I've been in this house, and it's really increased quite a bit. I think possibly some of it is from the aggregate facility that's on Lowland Street as well. I noticed the payloads and the sizes of the trucks are tremendous. They're major earth movers. And the location that I'm at Regency Drive, Norfolk Street, and Blair Square, the trucks are flying down the road easily at 50 miles an hour, easily. When some of the newer truck drivers realize that there's a flashing light at the intersection, then they start to jake brake. There's been a tremendous amount of traffic, of automobile traffic. There hasn't, at least in my time, been truck traffic has been increased, but not accidents yet. Automobiles have been in a lot of accidents at that intersection. And also I understand about the rail trail, people not using the flashers when they're crossing with bicycles and all. I know that there's not going to be a lot done. Where else can you divert trucks that have to do their job? But there's a huge increase of them. They're larger trucks, heavier trucks, and they are starting at 6:30 in the morning on my street. And thank God for Norfolk Street to divert some of the traffic, truck traffic as well. But if Lowland Street, Washington Street, Woodland Street, Fisk Street, Bullard Street is all talking about the increase of traffic. You have no idea how much traffic that my neighborhood is encountering on Central Street, and how much are they encountering on Norfolk Street. So everybody has truck traffic issues. And with the amount of land being dug up for more houses and neighborhoods, I thought there wasn't going to be enough land left for loggers and trucks to dig up more soil, but apparently there is. You've got a big problem on your hands to try and figure out what to do with all this truck traffic. But I have a problem with jake braking and speed on Central Street. And when cars are trying to make a turn into the Regency Drive complex, I have giant trucks flying right in front of my house and my living room. I'm looking forward to the day when one of them decides to totally plow into my house and smash it to bits. So I don't have many ideas or solutions, but I just wanted to have you listen to my gripe as well. And I have a lot of other concerns in my neighborhood as well. Thank you for listening to me.
Judy, it was a pleasure. Thanks for joining us tonight. Our technology director just announced that Zoom, for some reason, has cleared all the raised hands. So in the event that you did want to speak, please reinitiate that raised hand feature. I'm going to acknowledge one of the callers or the participants who has waited to speak, and that's Steve Hedrick. Steve, if you want to speak up, just give us your address, please, and good to hear from you.
Hi there.
Hi, Steve. Hey, Ben.
I'm good. I'm on 108 Norland Street. Now, Norland is the first left down Woodland. Lowland is the second left. And as one of our previous callers stated, we get on more than one occasion, those big trucks come down Woodland and turn down Norland thinking the industrial park is there. And so you see these massive trucks coming down Norland and kind of looking around. The good news is they're not going fast because they're lost. The bad news is they then have to go down Regal, and I have no idea how they make that turn from Regal onto Lowland. I just, one of these days I'm going to run down there and try to watch, you know? So, so that's the first problem. Second issue that another caller mentioned was that crosswalk on Woodland Street. And not only is the crosswalk a problem, but along Lowland, there are no sidewalks. So if you're trying to get out of the neighborhood to get to Woodland, there are no sidewalks there. So it's very dangerous, the big trucks. The main issue I have is there are no signs at Jeffrey Ave and Lowland Street to direct the trucks out to Route 16. Absolutely no signs. If there were signs there, then maybe half of the truck drivers would say, oh, this is the way I go, and we wouldn't be dealing with so much traffic. The last thing I wanted to mention is I saw in the news recently that Odessa was trying to take over the CSX rail yard parking area on Route 126. And that's on the other side of GM, the old GM plant. So now I'm thinking about, well, when we were talking with Odessa and they wanted to get in Lowland Street, they said the trucks would come up Western Ave and in through Jeffrey. Well, if they're using a parking lot over on 126 now in Framingham, that might change the direction that these trucks are coming carrying these cars. So I think there's a major issue there that I think the planning board needs to look into, and especially if Sherburne has got some type of written agreement that they're not supposed to use Western Ave. So that sounds like a major problem. So anyway, there's a lot of truck traffic on Lowland Street. There's no signs, and we really need to try to correct that situation. Thank you.
Steve, thanks so much. We'll recognize the next caller as Adam and Lauren McLean. Stand by. Okay, we're going to move on from that. We'll come back. If you happen to be the McLeans, just put your hand up. We'll get back to you. We'll move on to MMICH.
So you don't want to try to pronounce that. Matt Minch. I'm at 4 Old Surrey Lane in Medway. Although I'm not directly impacted per se, I think it's important that folks know there's another project that's ongoing at 555 Hopkinton Park. There's a potential of 3 million square feet of warehouse space. There's an expectation potentially of over 7,000 trucks back and forth on Route 16. And I think people need to be aware of that. And I would employ the board to really consider the traffic issue and how to mitigate that. I mean, everybody's been talking about traffic on this call. I appreciate Chief Stone participating as well, and how he may be able to help with mitigating this, but it's a big concern for all of us. I frankly don't even see how the tax revenue is even going to mitigate the damage to our local streets and roads. So anyway, just wanted to weigh in on that, make sure folks knew that there were other issues going on in the town that affect not just Hopkinton, but Medway and other surrounding towns also. So thank you for your time.
Matt, thanks very much for joining us. I just want to briefly correct it. It's 555 Hoppingbrook. That particular address has a project that's been much discussed. We're monitoring it with our fellow sister agencies here at Town Hall for its movement, and right now they've withdrawn their interest, I believe, and they're mulling their next move. We hope to hear from them very soon about the plans that they're looking to unfold up there. But rest assured, I think through our exercise here with the Lowland Industrial Park public hearing, we'll be doing something very similar to understand the residents' needs in and around that property as well. I think we can all agree that traffic is something that we're all trying to cope with. It doesn't seem to be getting any better. So smart planning and thoughtful deliberation is really the cure-all for this. We have to be pretty smart about what we do. So stay with us, and if that project gets off the ground in a way that results in a meeting like this, we'll probably hear from you soon. All right, thanks, Matt. Let's move on to the next one. Jeff Turner from Ferry will be the next one.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for allowing us to participate in this meeting. Really appreciate it. I have 2 quick questions for you.
Jeff, if you could identify your street, please.
I apologize. It's 26 Bullard Street. We've lived here for 22 years. And just 2 quick questions. The first is with regard to how we can, as residents, because you've heard from a number of my neighbors, how we can apply to receive a stop sign on Bullard Street, perhaps at Bogastow Brook Road, so that would stop the traffic by law, basically halfway down Bullard Street. So that's unique to Bullard Street. That's one request and question. And then the other question is it even possible for us as a town to request an ordinance that all these heavy trucks utilize Jeffrey Lane and Jeffrey Lane only to come and go on and off of Route 16 instead of cutting through our neighborhoods? Can we request such a thing? Thank you.
Jeff, that's what we're here tonight to discuss. There are clearly a number of different options available. I shouldn't say a number. There are a certain number The ordinance issue is something that was briefly discussed last spring. I'm not going to put our guest from MassDOT on the line this evening, but I know he's listening. We hope to work with MassDOT to understand how to develop a plan that routes traffic in a safe and effective way. Whether that's through an ordinance or some other design in agreement with MassDOT, please bear with us. That's our homework, all right? So we're putting all things out there as an opportunity to develop something that works best, and it could include an ordinance, but more likely it's going to be something that's a combination of a number of different factors.
Okay. And is there somewhere on the website or elsewhere where we can, as citizens, request a stop sign on Bullard Street? I didn't see that on the website.
Go ahead, Tina.
Yeah, Jeff, I would point you to the website for the Traffic Advisory Committee page. We had slides up earlier, so you go onto the town website and look under boards and committees. You'll find Traffic Advisory Committee, and at that spot, you'll be able to submit a petition with that request.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Very good. We'll move on to the next. Citizen Sarah's iPhone is next on the list. Your name and address, Sarah.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Sarah Hill, 1 Fisk Pond Road in Holliston. We've been residents here for 7 years now, and I stand in solidarity with all of my Holliston neighbors. While the truck traffic doesn't pass by Fisk Pond, we often walk Fisk Street with my small children in strollers. And I just wanted to tell you about a story that happened approximately a year ago. I was walking down Fisk Street, as I often do on nice, beautiful days. We walk all the way down Fisk to Central and hop on the rail trail, do a certain section of it, and come back. I was walking with my child in a baby stroller, and I literally had to jump on a lawn on Fisk Street. The stroller turned over, I fell, and it was because a large truck was passing down Fisk Street, speeding and not paying attention. Unfortunately, it's becoming more and more, and we've decided not to walk with the stroller on Fisk Street. But, you know, this is a very nice area, and people like to be outside and enjoy walking, and it's very dangerous now. And I just want to make that short and sweet tonight, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to enjoy Holliston. There's no sidewalks, and walking with a stroller or walking with another person is becoming more and more dangerous, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. We appreciate your call in. The next citizen will be Mary Greendale. Hi, Mary.
Mute myself. Hi there.
Hi.
Just a quick comment. I was here earlier and I had to go out, and as it was, I had to go over to Lowland Street to pick up my granddaughter who was visiting a friend over there. And I thought was interesting that as I was turning from Elm Street onto Woodland, I almost got run over by one of those great big trucks that comes from the transfer station. And it was 7:45 at night. And just before I left, somebody had asked, you know, what times of day do these trucks travel these, you know, around here and so forth. I didn't realize they were out that late. I didn't know their mom and dad let them be out that late. They shouldn't be out that late. But at any rate, so Woodland Street, 7:45 at night, coming around a curve, near miss, but it's not, yeah, I just add that to the mix. Just add it to the mix. They're going around, they're out there earlier and later than we might think. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. I will, at this point, recognize Ms. Wendy Cabot as our next speaker. Wendy, if you could give us your address.
Hi there. I'm at 1305 Washington Street. And I had a question, though I think, I'm not sure if it's a traffic improvement, change petition question, but I'm just wondering if it's possible for a town-wide ban on Jake breaks. I know a few signs have gone up. I've lived in my home for over 30 years. I've seen a sign in East Holliston. I see one in between my house and the center of town. But I'm just wondering if a townwide ban on Jake breaks could be considered and how we would go about getting that implemented.
Wendy, you're going to have to forgive us tonight. We're going to accept your question, but we'll have to research and get a answer that would be hopefully fulfilling for you, because I don't want to guess on an answer like that, but we've got some homework to do. We're going to add that to it. Fair enough?
Terrific. Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to ask tonight, Wendy, or are you all set?
I'm all set.
Thanks so much. The next citizen will be Leslie Negri.
Hi there, Negri.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? I live at 79 Northway Street, which is right at the top of where Fisk and Lowland meet. I am just adding my name to the list of residents calling to express concern over safety and traffic. I have a family of 5. My kids' ages range from 4 to 9, and we often bike frequently down Lowland Street to pick up the rail trail. It isn't safe. There's no sidewalks. The trucks are barreling down. Often at time, most of the time they move over, but my one family of 5 going single filed, white knuckling down to the rail trail causes traffic. The property that the dump trucks are going in and out of, I just want to add that they don't stop coming in and out of that property. They barrel in and out in addition to up and down Lowland Street. For what it's worth, I just wanted to add that. I'm also calling because I'm thinking ahead to schools opening. So I have 2 children that will be one in Placentino and one in Miller, and we want to bike to school because we don't qualify for the bus, and that increased traffic for drop off and pickup is going to be nuts. But we'll be out there 7:15 in the morning and 8:30 in the morning, where we usually try to avoid those times on the rail trail because, on Lowland Street, because it is so busy. So it's really unsafe, and we'd like to be able to access the rail trail and in a safe way. And the truck speed, they barrel down, they don't often move over. And I can't help, I know Mr. Higley mentioned earlier from Sherborne, I would just like the board to consider, I know that there is another planning board meeting about the Odessa, trying to acquire I think it's 194 Lowland Street. Correct me if I'm wrong on that street address. They're trying to put in a 620 car lot, overflow lot on Lowland Street, which could add 8 to 10 extra tractor trailers on Lowland Street. I would just really, really appreciate if the board, as well as the select board and the planning board, can think hard about this one with all of the feedback we're getting tonight about the trucks and the traffic, and adding another piece to that I would just ask if we think thoughtfully about those next steps with Odessa trying to obtain that property. And that's it.
Leslie, thanks so much. We appreciate your calling in tonight.
Thanks for your time.
We'll next recognize Sagapatura. I hope I said that the right way.
That was perfect. You did great.
Thank you. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
Good. What can we help you with tonight?
I have a couple concerns I'd like to share with the board and everybody listening. First off, I really appreciate all the public officials taking the time to listen to the neighbors around Lowland Street and the areas that are impacted. It really is sad to hear how many good people have been impacted by this issue. We've lived in the town for over 13 years, and we're raising 3 children. 2 of them go to the schools on Lowland Street.
What street do you live on, sir?
I'm sorry, I live on 31 Noel Drive.
Thank you. Keep going.
The truck traffic and noise has been a nuisance inside and outside for our family for the past 9 years. Our family cannot open our windows or doors on nice days. We have to play white noise as the trucks start before 7 a.m. And when our young children have to take a nap, we have to move them to different bedrooms because of the banging, the noise from the trucks, and other operations from Lowland is so intense. During the first 4 years, we never contacted anyone from the town of Holliston. We didn't even really know where the town hall was. We found our dream home and we planned on starting our family. The issue started 9 years ago in 2011. The first 4 years before that, it was our dream home. We've been very active with town officials, attending meetings, talking to enforcement officers, working with the state, We've begged and pleaded for help for the last 9 years. We've been fortunate to meet so many amazing people during this process. It's kind of the silver lining. However, dealing with these issues has taken so much time away from our ability to spend time as a family. We've attended so many town meetings and taken so much time to verify complaints, log complaints. It has impacted our lives in a detrimental manner. We really do like these virtual meetings. As you guys can see, you have over 100 people attending. This probably wouldn't have happened if it was just in the in-person meetings. We've spent a small fortune on babysitters throughout the years, trying to get our point across. So please keep these virtual meetings going because it's saving us a small fortune. But we are located, I'm still going, please. It's going to be a little while. We are located and we hear the trucks from all directions. We also hear the trucks loading up with rock, asphalt, being dumped by front loaders, driving up a dirt road, and dumping the materials into the metal back of trucks, the tailgates banging all day long. And this is not just the start of the issues for our property. This goes on Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. through 7 p.m., including holidays. Most recently, the operations went on Memorial Day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., July 3rd, which was the 4th of July day of observance, and the 4th of July itself. While we are so happy to have this forum, I'm kind of taken back why it's been 9 years to get to this point and why the town has never enforced or monitored noise complaints. Enforcement, specifically the willingness to enforce the bylaws or issued permits, is very concerning. We were encouraged to call, email complaints to the boards for years. We work with many enforcement officers. After sitting in the town hall and cross-referencing my email and phone logs versus the town records, hundreds of complaints were never logged by the town. The previous had issues accessing 2 sites on Lowland Street. He was the town's only enforcement officer, and for 7 years, he had issues getting on the property to verify any issues. The town has had 0 options for residents experiencing truck and noise issues. Town hall hours are limited during weekdays, and there are absolutely no options for any citizen to report any issues on weekends. And that's the time where we do rest. I'd also like to share my screen if that's okay.
Please.
It says the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Not going to enable it, sorry. Our technology director can't make that happen, but please describe what you want us to see.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate, but I do have a few things here. I took a snapshot from the Holliston Reporter where there is a thing from the HPD where it logs basically any call to action. And it goes through 7 months of data. And out of 61 different categories, there's only one where 0 violations were tagged. And that is the town bylaw violation. And that's very concerning. I can tell you, we have called on weekends when town halls are closed and we can't get a hold of anybody, and nothing is being done. There's nobody to verify these complaints, and nothing is being done when they are acting against the permits or the town bylaws. And moving forward, we also had, I have a couple notes and a couple of screenshots, which I'll be happy to email you after this, but letters from a Board of Health agent, the previous Board of Health agent, that identified issues with truck traffic, noise, and odors over 8 years ago. On March 8, 2012, the board stated the need for the ability to address sound issues. Now in 2020, we still have the same issues and nothing has been done. And another slide that I have for you, a letter from the building inspector on September 24th, 2015, about 5 years ago, noting issues with noise, hours of operation, and permit violations. And that was, like I said, about 5 years ago. Also, there's a couple other notes. Another slide I have for you was on August 2011, the permit was granted for 157 Lowland Street. The hours of operation are dramatically different than other approvals from the planning board, even on that same date. All other approvals go Monday through Friday with either from 7 or 7:30 start times to 5 o'clock. This operation and they also highlight that there is no operating during holidays or weekends. This business was granted basically carte blanche to operate at all times, including multiple, anytime that it snows, before, during, after. They were doing snow storage. Overnight operations they were allowed to do. I mean, it was very strange how this got its approval. We also ran into abutter issues. As we are the closest to abutter, our property is less than a football field away from where the operations on 157 operate, where the main source of the truck traffic is coming from. We were never notified by the town. We were never given a chance to speak about the issues. We never had a public forum like this because of the lack of the abutter notification. And I have another slide on there regarding another place on Lowland Street where there was an abutter notification issue and they canceled the meeting. I don't know why that was not done with 157, as we clearly talked to the town planner in person several times about being left off the list and also about issues with the appeal. And the appeal period was never elongated due to the not being notified. And last but not least, I wish I could show you the videos, but best I can do is just let you listen to the sound. So this is going to be just a sound clip from my bedroom, just laying in our bed. This is the noise that comes from 157 Lowland on a daily basis inside the house. So if you just think we're, NIMBYs that, just don't want this in our backyard, that's not the case. It is extremely loud. And there's another good visual one I wish I could share with you of smoke and dust coming from the view from our back property with multiple machines going and the noise just being atrocious that we had to get the state involved with. And that's the only time where a berm was actually put back up and where the state got involved, not the town. We've been working with the building inspector since basically March when COVID started, and the operator removed the berm, kind of taking away any protection we have from the noise. We really, really ask, with all these issues, with all the things, and I will send you these documents so you just don't think I'm speaking out of school, and these are actually factual data that is on the town website. We ask that all the town officials please support reopening the permit for 157 Lowland. That is the main source of these truck noises and the noise nuisance in surrounding areas. Thank you for your time. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your comprehensive report. Just a couple of things. As you know, this evening, this board is evaluating feedback from residents and businesses in the Lowland industrial area for truck traffic concerns. I would direct any concerns you have regarding the permit at 157 Lowland to the respective board. I think in this case, it may be the planning board, sir. So if you have any difficulty
I've met with the different members of the select board, the town administrator. We have been through everybody. That's why, while I have you all in a forum, I'm asking and trying to make all these issues known.
And I just have a comment. I feel like there's an elephant in the room that nobody wants to indicate, but
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to identify yourself if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Audrey Zabatora. I live at 31 Noel Drive also.
Hi, Audrey, sorry.
I'm just pointing out the elephant in the room that nobody has indicated, but I could pretty much guarantee that probably 70% of these truck traffic complaints that everybody's referring to is coming from the one source. So although this meeting isn't directly involving that property, I would say that is the source of the issue that we are all have come together today to discuss. So I think that should be considered. I promote business and I want to live harmoniously with our businesses in the area, but it almost seems like if you remove the source of where the trucks are coming, a lot of these complaints might go away.
Understood. Thank you. If I could ask you, sir, I hope you can appreciate during a Zoom call, we don't want to import too many videos or external sources for a variety of reasons. But if you want to share that information with us, I'd ask you to send it to our town administrator tomorrow morning. His address is on the town website. His name is Travis Ahern.
I'd be happy to. I have a lovely PowerPoint for you. I will send in the morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the time.
We're going to move on to Shahar. I see you. I'm going to ask you to wait because I had you first. I'm going to go to Sherry next. If Sherry would like to join us, please give us your address.
My address is 242 Lowland Street.
Your last name, Sherry?
With the increase of the type of businesses that are being allowed here in the industrial lowland, there are bigger trucks, trailers, coupled with the increased use of our gorgeous rail trail. It's an inevitable collision of use on these little narrow streets. And my family and I do our best to be safe when we ride our horses along Lowland Street. But no matter whether we go to the right, towards the rail trail, or to the left, towards Fisk, it's gotten more and more dangerous. For example, when trucks are coming down Lowland from Woodland, rather than Jeffrey, because at least at Jeffrey, they have to stop before they're turning on Lowland. By coming from Woodland, they have enough speed coming around the curve, they have to swerve and brake in order to give the horses and the riders enough room. Once when we were coming from the opposite direction, we were going home via Fisk to Lowland, a dump truck came up over the hill so fast, he slammed on his brakes, hit his air horn, and frightened horse and riders. And I know it is our responsibility to have horses that can stay calm no matter what. But if a horse spooks a bit at or air horns or jake brakes, there isn't enough room for a margin of error on these roads. I also understand that at least one of the reasons truckers do not want to use the Jeffrey truck route is because the Stanley business parks trailers on either side of that road, and then they completely block that road for periods of time while the drivers are attempting to back into the loading docks. So truckers are avoiding that road. Thank you so much for allowing us to share with you in this forum our concerns and our hope that you guys are going to be able to come up with a solution.
Thank you, Sherry, very much. Shahar, you've been waiting patiently. Welcome back.
No, thank you. No, it's good to let everybody speak. I know I'm a second timer, so again, Shahar, 15 Buller Street. I just want to expand on the few points that Leslie raised and the fact that we have members of neighboring towns. Now, we all here, and we really assembled an amazing amount of people from town that coming to work to resolve an issue that affect us all, and it's our streets, our neighborhoods, and our town. But with neighboring towns joining us on that, it's a question to you guys: is the committee, is the select board, is anything in Holliston? Are we working with our neighboring towns? Are we partnering with our neighboring towns to have a solution that is a greater to the area? That it's not one solving something and another piling on it and contradict it, but we're doing something to really work our like if you look at our towns as you drive by, sometimes you don't know when you cross the town line. So it's the same streets, the same neighborhoods. Is there a greater effort here to join with our neighboring towns? And you mentioned the Mass Department of Transportation as a greater solution.
Great question. I'll have Tina Hine wants to remark.
Shahar, I'm not sure if it's a direct response to your question and comment, but I will let you know that I'm the vice chair of the Metro West Regional Collaborative. That pulls from towns like Ashland, Framingham, and Hopkinton in our area, and I've raised for that committee the concerns about regional truck traffic. And so I'm hoping that we will start dialogue at a regional level on some of these common issues that we all have. To your point about are we connecting with other communities to understand how this affects all of us. And also through that committee looking to talk about expansion of the rail trail. That's in relationship to an earlier comment made by John Higley of Sherburne. So yes, the Metro West Regional Collaborative is one way in which the town of Holliston can participate on these issues, with these issues at a regional level.
No, so that's great. And just to remind that Bullard, we are at the far edge of town. We're about a quarter mile from Sherborne and a quarter mile from Millis. And that sounds like those towns were not part of that collaborative. So again, if we can also work with our neighboring to the south and the east to work on that, because 27 is a major road, and I'm sure some traffic come from there too.
Okay, yep, thank you.
Thank you, Shahar. I'd like to recognize Torres Campos, please.
Hi, Sidinia.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes, address, please.
I currently live at 77 Woodland Street. I actually grew up here in town at 118 Regal. I won't reiterate what everyone has already said about the traffic. I will mention that that corner again on Woodland and Lowland is horrendous. I also have young children who go to school down the street and do walk, because especially now with COVID. So all of those issues, I just want to provide support for all of my neighbors who've already mentioned those issues before, including the trucks turning onto Norland, which I myself have seen. But I wanted to back up because Cherie was the only one who mentioned the issues with the trucks at Stanley Black & Decker. And we actually also frequent two other businesses, Shen's Gymnastics and Firewall Fitness, that are both also in the Lowland Industrial Park Complex. They're on Jeffrey. And I can tell you that I have had many times when I was on my way to drop off a kid or pick up a kid, when there were trucks there, when traffic was backed up, literally for 5 or more minutes because of where that loading dock was placed. It's come up at the planning board meeting. It's not clear why, when, for example, the permit was given for the solar panels, which are wonderful, but why something wasn't included to move that loading dock to the back when there should be potentially plenty of room to have a truck swing around the back end of that building. So as long as we're talking about the broader, traffic, yes, traffic on Woodland is still, considering that there are mostly residential families on this street, there's a lot more truck traffic than you would think would be reasonable. And that area in the industrial park itself gets clogged up and is challenging for trying to access some of the other businesses. So I just wanted to support some of what Cherie had mentioned. And again, speaking to that broader issue of how all of this, as you mentioned, Tina, sort of impacts other areas. And that definitely, although some of us might not feel like we're right in that area, we've definitely lived it and experienced it. And I remember even as a young person walking to school from Regal Street, the trucks were definitely an issue even then. So thank you again for having this. I'll echo what everyone has said, that this is definitely something we all feel really passionately about.
Thank you. It appears as though we have one other resident that wishes to speak tonight. We'll wrap up with Carol Corey, who was with us earlier. Carol, if you'd like to rejoin us and give us some follow-up to your earlier comments.
Basically, I've been sitting here and I've been listening to everyone, and I think we all come back to the same issue. And when I'm listening to this, and I know I have anywhere from 44 to 100 trucks up and down my street, and I understand there's plenty of trucks going up and down Lowland to Woodland. I've seen it myself. I've gone through there in the early mornings and trucks just race through there. It's horrifying. So we all have these concerns. And I know the planning board has done their best when they set these companies up and the permits and what they're doing. And when you read through the permits, as I have, and you realize there are designated truck routes that are not being adhered to because of lack of signage from the town. I mean, if we could just get some signs put up as far as no left turns, no right turns, even though there's a business right before, which is empty right now, right before the railway, you could always have not a through street for trucks in 50 feet to deter trucks from even trying to go down there. So there are signs that we can put up around that would force that traffic to have to go through Jeffrey, which is what they are contracted to do by their agreement. The only one that I could find out of the contracts and permits that I pulled with Karen is Ty Wood, okay? For whatever reason, they're exempt. They do have where they cannot turn when they come out of their docks, they're not allowed to go. It clearly states on their sign that they can't take a left-hand turn, but they can go straight down Jeffrey or turn right onto Lowland, which I think those 16-wheelers that I showed you earlier are coming from, is the Tywood and also Stanley, because they don't care. I've tracked them, I followed them, and I saw them go into Stanley. So I have been diligent at watching this traffic, following this traffic. It put me in the hospital last weekend because the stress in what I'm doing isn't healthy for me, but neither is watching trucks coming up and down my street. That used to be a nice, quiet road where the boys could play out front and children could have fun, and I didn't have to worry about my animals and joggers, bicyclists. I mean, I can see that they've cut back. I don't see as many cyclists as I used to see. I don't see as many walkers as I used to see. People are afraid of our roads, and there are no sidewalks here. There are no crosswalks here. As Jeff, my neighbor, mentioned, let's put up a stop sign. It might not be necessary, but let's put up a stop sign just to slow down the traffic. I've seen it done on High Street. High Street got 2 stop signs put in where it probably really wasn't that necessary, but it slowed down traffic. High Street also got a 2.5-ton weight limit to stop trucks from going up and down their street. So obviously the town has looked at certain roads and permitted certain signage and certain ways of doing things. And I know you're trying to take a holistic view, but if we just looked at the permits alone and what the permits and what these companies agreed to in their permits, and by us simply putting up a few signs that would have to force them, directing them down Jeffries, it would eliminate the Woodland, it would eliminate Bullard, it would eliminate Fisk, and it would stop the upper end of Lowland and the lower end of Lowland where it's residential. We can fix this. We just have to have the nerve or the capacity to do it. It's in their contract. I just don't understand why we don't have signage up. I mean, is it the fact that the town can't afford signs? Anybody?
Carol,
do we not believe?
Yeah, I do believe we have a budget for signage. I don't mean to be flip, but I think you understand that this is a complex issue. We recognize that, but what we want to do is smart, and there's obviously a lot at stake with various businesses and residents involved. Your contribution tonight, along with others that have spoken, are meaningful. They're helping us form a picture that is quite compelling, and I hope to take that information forward and start working on a solution. I'll get to our closing remarks in a minute because I think, if you're all set, Carol,
well, the other
move on to the
I would like to make is for the planning board, which would be to deny ADESA, because I think that is just going to add more trouble. It's not going to be worth it. And we had already heard in the prior meeting that 65% of what gets dropped off in Sherburne is not direct by ADESA. It's direct drop-offs to the Sherburne overflow. And if Sherburne already has said they can't use Western Ave, well, anything that's coming off of 109 to 115 is coming down Bullard Street, okay? Anything that's coming off of 16 is going to be coming down through Woodland Street over into Lowland to get there. I really think the planning board needs to think long and hard before allowing that. And I would really say with the American Recycling, their permit is up on June 6th of 2023 with the Department of Environmental Protection. And I would hope that maybe Karen, being on this call, would be able to help us not to get that renewed, to get that done with. No further permits through the Department of Environmental Protection to allow them to operate that facility after June 6th of 2023. That's all.
Thank you very much, Carol. We have another hand up, and I think at this point that may very well be our last. Again, it is Karen Langton returning for some follow-up. Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you again. I'm hearing the same thing over and over, and I think what we're really being asked is a big question here, right? Mr. Cronin, as you just indicated, this is a large problem. But then you also said that you wanted to be able to think about all the stakeholders and hear what they all have to say. And I'm of the impression that this was an open meeting for both businesses and residents. And as a resident, it's disappointing that I'm not able to hear from any businesses tonight because we residents took a lot of time to be here. Secondly,
they were invited, Karen.
I know they were. I was just saying I'm disappointed that they didn't speak up so we could hear them. So, and I would also like to say that I think, you know, we're at a crossroads where I think what residents are asking is, what is the future of Holliston? What is the town that we are going to be? Are we going to listen to and hear what our residents have to say that have moved here for a quality of life, of raising their children, for utilizing the amenities that it has to offer? Or are we going to be a town that people are going to run away from because they can't use the roads the way they want to? And I think in closing, I would just like to read just a sentence out of the general zoning bylaw, which says that, you know, Holliston, under the provisions of the general laws, chapter 40A, is to encourage the most appropriate use of land while preserving the cultural, historical, and agricultural heritage of this community. And I think that's what we're asking for here. We're asking for you to consider not just the balance, but the restoration of our quality of life here that has been lacking for so long. And I will end with that. Thank you.
Karen, thank you for that remark. We have no other raised hands, so we will move to close our meeting. I want to just address a few things. First, I'll ask my colleagues if they have any closing remarks. Mr. Sparrow, do you have anything you wish to address this evening?
Yeah, this is very informative for me to hear about it. I live on the other side of town, so this is very instructive for me to be able to hear some of these things and understand the scope of the challenges. You know, as I'm looking at some of my lists, I've got a lot of notes everywhere. There's, I think, 8 or 9 streets that I can count, and I probably missed a couple. But I think what I'm really concerned about is, I mean, of course, I want to make sure that the quality of life for residents is high, and it's very important to me. I'm a resident, just like everyone else, and thinking about all these things. But what I want to be careful about in thinking about a solution to some of these challenges is making sure we're not borrowing trouble. I don't want to be creating a solution on one street that spills onto a different street, for example. I want to make sure that we're putting together a solution that does think about concerns for everyone, and that is a sustainable solution and is a reasonable solution. And there might be, maybe there's some signs, maybe there's some infrastructure improvements. There's a lot of things that I think need to be taken into consideration to address a lot of the challenges that people are having. So I just want to close with thank you so much for all of your words and ideas and comments. They've helped me a lot to really understand a little bit more of the problems and the challenges. And we have a big task ahead to try to put together a solution that's going to take into account all of these different ideas and thoughts that we have. So thank you again for coming out and speaking to us, and we will do the best we can to address as many of these issues as we can. So thank you.
Yeah, so I highlighted in my mind here from the 30-plus people who spoke up, a couple common themes that at this point in time I've recognized. There are more. This is what comes to mind right now. Jake breaking is a significant problem that we have heard from many of you who chose to speak up tonight. Safe routes to school for our children is a significant concern for many of you who chose to speak up tonight. Walking and biking along Lowland Street within the industrial park itself is a significant quality of life issue for many of our residents. The lack of signage, the need for signage, improved signage is a common solution that many of you have offered as a very reasonable step to addressing the problems you've identified. There's a call that I hear for regional collaboration to identify how changes we may make impact broader concerns, but also how other communities are dealing with and experiencing similar problems. So this is what I'm hearing tonight. And I want you to know that it does not go unnoticed, your comments. It will stay with me as we make decisions as a board to address these problems. My approach will be that perfect not be the enemy of good, that there are very reasonable approaches that we can take, many very reasonable decisions that we should be considering seriously, and that will be my approach moving forward. So thank you all who took the time to come to this meeting tonight.
Thanks, Tina. To wrap up and maybe overlap a little with my colleagues, I would inform the listeners tonight that we have some options ahead of us, homework in other words, to tackle some of the issues that are before us. Working again with our state partners, we hope to develop a plan that addresses proper traffic flow for commercial and residential traffic in and around the Lowland Industrial Park area. The plan will probably have multiple inputs, including state, local, highway, and law enforcement contributions. As Ms. Hine indicated loud and clear tonight, we heard the need for additional signage once that plan is initiated. Couldn't agree more with Ben's comments. Ultimately, with a community that is like ours with such a large-scale issue, we want to try to avoid any unintended consequences of making traffic go one way or another and causing another problem downstream. So we'll look at that. Ultimately, there's an issue here that's associated with enforcement. I gather over the years that's one of the residents' major concerns, that there have been permits in place that have been unenforced. I think we all acknowledge that. Holliston Police is not a commercial vehicle outfit. However, I think Chief Stone indicated earlier in his comments that they have begun working with the Mass State Police on more such interdiction. I would expect him to move forward with those types of initiatives going forward. The timing of this evening's meeting was strategic in nature. I want folks to know we wanted as a board to hear these concerns at this time. It'll give us enough time, hopefully, to develop any additional content that we'll have to draft and include in an upcoming special town meeting warrant scheduled for this October. Somebody asked earlier in the call if there were any ordinances that would have to be drafted. So we don't know the answer to that question yet, but we'll be working on that over the next couple of months in preparation for that possibility. As we close this evening's meeting, I just want to thank you all. Looks like we've lost a few, but still strong at around 87, 88. This was a very, very helpful and collegial meeting. Your contributions were very, very well done. I can't thank you enough, and on behalf of the Select Board, we appreciate your contributions this evening. Please stay tuned, stay involved, and keep in touch with us. We hope to be back to you in some way, shape, or form with some answers over the next couple of months. Thanks so much for your contributions tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Wait a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks so much, folks. Have a great evening.